All
Welcome,
right.
everybody. My name is Mina Jane. I'm the director of the Ashland Public Library in Massachusetts, and I'm super excited to be here with Leelynn Brady. She's at sometimes Leelynn Reads. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yes.
correct.
And she's a book blogger, and she's going to be making inclusive and diverse book recommendations for us because, of course, we all want to be reading everything that's out there. And I'm super pleased to have this program because it's been something I've been wanting to do for a long time. So Leland has actually made a dream come true. So really quickly, just want to say thank you to the Friends of the Ashland Public Library who support all of our programming and really let us, help us do all these things. And to Leland for letting us share this with other libraries. A bunch signed on and have been promoting it, and we're very excited to work together. So the way that this works is we have half an hour to talk about book recommendations that Leelynn is making. You all are welcome to make recommendations in the chat of what you're reading and enjoying so that we can, uh, maybe we haven't heard of it. And I will write everything up, Leland's recommendations and yours, and I will send out a recap email with all of that after the program. So Leland lives in Hawaii, I believe.
Yes, I am
And
in sunny Hawaii right now.
well, we're in very cold Massachusetts, so I'm jealous. And you have been a bookstagrammer, a reader. You've been talking about books for about 10 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, I actually recently was scrolling through my blog and my Bookstagram, and I was like, when did I start? And it was about 10 years ago, maybe about to be 11. So I was like really impressed with myself that it's been so long, but also didn't realize how much time has passed since I first started. So very proud of myself for that.
As you should be. I mean, it's a pretty crazy business, right? Like there's so many people trying to get
Yeah.
in, and there's so many reasons for people to try to do it. And I was saying to you before we started is that I learned about you from some blog of like the best pe bookstagrammers out there for diverse recommendations, and so it was really nice to have that to lean into to find somebody that I thought reads as I would like to read.
And I'm still really shocked that you found me on such a thing because I was never like informed or anything. And not to say that I need to, but it just like feels really humbling knowing that people see what I post and like take heart to that and know that I'm coming from a good place. And I just love talking about books and being really intentional about the kind of books that I post. So seeing that my name is included in a lot of in this list that has a lot of great creators too that talk about books and are influencers. That's really just humbling, and I'm very grateful. I'm very, very humbled.
Awesome. Well, I forgot to say, if you have questions, put them in the chat or the Q&A. I'll moderate them to Leland as we go through our book. So let's get started. What's your first book?
Okay, so I have all my books here for me. The first one that I really wanted to start with is Lunar Love by Lauren Kung Jensen. This is actually her debut novel that came out a couple years ago. It's contemporary romance, so I know, Mina, you love romance, so I'm starting off with this one. Lauren Kung Jensen herself is Chinese American. And so is the main character. So she's also mixed. She's, I want to say Chinese and white, and I don't remember what kind of Caucasian, but her family started a matchmaking service in San Francisco, Chinatown, and that's really, or LA, I'm sorry, and that's really what brought their family to have wealth, right? They really took in their traditions as far as matching people up with their zodiacs and making sure that they're a good fit. And this character, Olivia, she is taking over the business, but also finding that the process of actually doing traditional matchmaking where you fill out the really long form and you have to meet people individually and it's really slowing down their business and they're kind of worried that things are gonna kind of fall to the wayside. And that's where the other main character comes in, Bennett, who has an app that works very similar to what Lunar Love is about, but they do it faster because it's apps, right? So they kind of have a adversary to lovers kind of thing because she thinks that traditional matchmaking is better because they really take their time. And Bennett's like, well, we're in an age where things need to be faster. People don't have time to just wait for months and months to meet the right person. And I really like this one. This was her first book, and for a debut, I was like really, really impressed with it. I loved the relationship between Olivia and her grandma. It really reminds me of my grandma. Like when I was reading this, I was thinking about her a lot and just a lot of the teachings that she would give me and just the women in our family. So this one was really good. I don't know if you've read this one, but I highly
Um,
recommend this
have
one.
not, but I do have a question about it is,
Sure.
um, well, not a question, maybe a comment about how um that you mentioned it is that they were able to keep a tradition alive. It's like I was thinking as soon as you said it, I thought of that that terrible Netflix show, Bollywood, it's Bollywood Matchmaker or something.
I haven't heard of it, but it sounds almost like another book that was
Okay.
very similar to this.
Oh, okay. Well, but it just, like the impression people get from that show is that, Indians don't get along and blah blah. But this book sounds like it actually is very intentional, like you said, about bringing in the cultural thing that has gone on for so many years and has worked for so many years. It just has to have a little tweak and an upgrade.
Yeah, and I don't want to spoil anything, but I think it's a matter of bringing tradition and mixing it with modernity and coming to a nice middle ground. But yeah, so you might have to tell me what that show is, and I'll take a look and see what I think.
I don't know if I want you to watch it. It's terrible.
Okay, then I won't watch it. All
I
right.
will tell you about it though, because it's like one of those car crash things where you kind of have to watch it.
Okay, okay. I
Okay,
will. Next
great.
one, because I
Yeah.
feel like I talk a lot. But this one is Firekeeper's
Ah.
Daughter by Angeline Boulley, one of my favorite Indigenous novels. Donis Fontaine, she's the main character in this. She's half Anishinaabe and half white. So I really related to this because as somebody who is not only Indigenous Chamorro, which is the Indigenous people from Guam, but also a bunch of other things, seeing how Donis was treated by both her Anishinaabe tribe members and then her white side of the family, she kind of was like neither this or that. Like she was never enough Anishinaabe. She was never enough white. And I feel like that a lot, especially in my culture, because I'm either not enough Chamorro, I'm not enough Japanese, I'm not enough Black, I'm not enough Spanish, I'm not enough anything. So her story just really resonated with me in that she had to come to terms with who she is, which of her cultures were important to her, both or not, and also just understand that it doesn't matter what anybody else says about her. Like she knows who she is. And I think she was able to realize that towards the end, while also talking about the missing women and children, or missing women and girls. This was a major plot point in this story because that's kind of what's going on within the hockey world of Donis's res, basically. I won't spoil that, but this is kind of a thriller. It's like a mystery thriller, so no romance or anything. There is kind of a little bit, but I really like this one. I feel like if you've never read an Indigenous author before, maybe Firekeeper's Daughter would be a good place to start. It is young adult, but don't let anyone tell you that young adult is not good because it is. But
I
I really like this one.
I also really love that book, and I thought it was so well written and um, so timely. It just came out at a time when this was coming out in the news and things like
Mhm.
that, and it just seems so prescient in that sense. So, and I really really like that book as well.
And I also read the sequel. I forget the name of it right now. I might do that in another one, but that one was also really good. And surprise, Donis may come back in that one. Spoiler alert. All right, the next one, Black Girls Must Die Exhausted by Jane Allen. Oh my gosh. This book gave me so much conflicting emotions. The main character is Tabitha Walker. She's coming to the point where she wants to eventually have a child because something happens where she has a health scare and it's like you may not be able to have children. And she had a plan where she wanted to do it in a way that made sense for her, get her career, get married, then have a kid. Now that that medical scare is going on, everything is like flipped around. She's like, I think I need to have my kid because I may not be able to have a kid, right? So not only is she dealing with that, dealing with the constant microaggressions that she's dealing with at work because she was trying to be a news anchor, she's a reporter, but also dealing with the relationship that she has with her boyfriend. Is it an actual good relationship or is it only good on paper? And this one also had a really good relationship with Tabitha or Tabby because her grandma's name is Tabitha and they call her Tabitha. So a very lovely grandmother granddaughter relationship that made me cry, also made me think about my grandma in another way. But um, this book really spoke to me as a Black woman as well, not only trying to just have everything that I want, right? Have a good career, have a good relationship, be a good dog mommy to my dogs, and go to school and have a social life and just literally do everything that I want to do, and how exhausted I am on a daily basis and still not feeling enough. So I read all three of these books, and each book's just like made me kind of sit back in myself and be like, it's okay to take a step back from things that are not giving you joy anymore. So really, really love this one.
Can I ask, how did she, in the book, um, differentiate Black girl exhaustion from just any woman exhaustion?
I feel like well, there was a lot of microaggressions in the book that she talked about. So there would be situations where she's at work and she's up for like the anchor role, and her boss is kind of telling her like, you just need to do better. And there's another guy, his white guy, who only started recently and yet is also up for the same role. She's been there longer, so she technically has seniority. And they say I feel like the author will have certain words or certain like things that happen that you're like, okay, I think this is racially motivated as to why she's not getting what she rightfully deserves. And maybe it's not as hard hitting as like, yeah, this is black girl exhaustion versus regular exhaustion, but I think the nuance is in there if you just really pay attention or know somebody that's like, yep, as a black woman, I know exactly what they're talking about, or even as a woman of color, because women of color face this a lot as well. It's not just black women, but I'm not saying black women don't have this, like we do. So I think if you read it, you'll feel that and you'll be like, yep, that is completely different from what regular exhaustion could be.
Mhm. I'm glad you said that though, because I think that um, even asking the question feels like a microaggression. Like, how do you prove that you're more exhausted than I am? Right.
Hmm.
But I think this author, it sounds like she does a really good job of showing that there's this other level that adds to it. And in this book, she's using it as it's not like different from like anybody else's experience of, having those
Yeah.
microaggressions. So I really appreciate that like you're explaining that to me.
I think something also that I want to bring up with this is I noticed that not a lot, but there are some black women that are really irritated with Tabitha and they feel like she whines a lot. And
Mhm.
I'm like, is that because as black women, we're told to be strong and overcome everything so that when she is feeling vulnerable and she is talking about how she's struggling, other black women see that as her complaining.
Mhm.
And I think that to me, when I see that, I'm like, I think that's hurting us as Black women because why do we have to be strong all the time?
Mhm.
You know?
Yep. And Rachel asks, do you feel that this book is mainly focused on struggle and is an emotionally hard read, or can the reader leave the book feeling more empowered?
Oh, that's a good question, Rachel. I feel like it's emotionally hard when you put yourself in Tabby's situation and you kind of see like, man, I don't think I could do what she's doing or even try to be at the same level she is. But I do feel like there are certain parts in the book, sorry, not movie. I want it to be a movie where you're like, you know what? I do feel empowered to stand up for myself because there are moments in here where she's like, you know what? Screw you. I'm gonna do it the way that I want to, and I deserve this. And at those points, I was like, yeah, you go, Tabby. Like I was so happy for her, right? Yeah, you're gonna feel emotionally hard or struggle with like just all of the things that come down on Tabby during this book. But I do feel like by the end, and maybe by the end of the series, rather than just this book, you're going to be like, you know what? I think Tabby, you did what you needed to do for yourself, and that's empowering in itself
Mhm.
because you took ownership of that and you didn't completely let anybody else dictate what's going to be best for you. So I hope
Mhm.
that answered your question, Rachel.
That's a great answer.
Thank you. All right, next, Conditions of a Heart by Bethany Mangle. I really like this one because this is one of the few, well, this is one of the few books that really focuses on a disability. It's Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and I feel like I'm saying that wrong, but EDS. And this book means a lot for me, especially because I work in the disability field. I work for a center for independent living that helps people with disabilities live independently, and this means a lot to me because I was inspired to work in this field and be an advocate for the disability community through my mom and my grandpa. So it's almost like a legacy thing, right? So it's really it's really important to me, and it feels really empowering for me to see characters in fiction that have various disabilities and they're living. It's not like they need to be fixed. It's not like they're going to have some magic thing happen to them where their disability gets removed and then they can do what they do. No, like it's part of their life. They live with it, but it doesn't deter from them living their life. In this one, it kind of takes place after COVID, and yet the author really kind of made it where COVID is not forever. Like it does have an endpoint, right? So there's that kind of, the author has that creative license to kind of make the world a little bit better, and that COVID is not everlasting, but it, it kind of has an everlasting effect on Bryn because she did have her EDS before COVID. And yet some people were like, oh man, could you imagine if you were like affected by COVID long term? Like I don't think I could live like that, right? Or like I couldn't imagine being severely, in their terms, crippled because of a disease. And of course, she never told anybody that she has EDS because when she did, when she was younger, people really like stepped away from her and they used that as an excuse as to why they didn't want to include her in things. And so she protected herself by saying, I'm not telling anybody, right? So for her to hear that from people that don't know her situation, but for her to be like, man, if I had told you that this is what I live with on a daily basis, are you going to look at me differently? So she has to come to her own understanding about whether she needs to be strong in that or not, or does she want to tell people about her disability? And does that mean that she's any less of a person if she tells people? So that was the internal struggle that she had in this book. The character is also Asian, which is really great because I'm also Japanese, right? So I love seeing Asian characters. Almost every book in here, they do have an ethnic similarity to me. So I thought that was really cool. I'm now seeing parts of myself in books that I haven't done in a while, but. This one took me a couple reads just to like really sit with myself and be like, yeah, do I tell people that I have multiple unapparent disabilities, and is that gonna make them look at me differently
Mhm.
once that I have to start putting boundaries for myself. So that's why I recommend this one.
Mhm.
Also YA.
I love that you took you did took the task and ran with it because, inclusion means everything. Like it can be, like you just had a disability, you can have a neurodivergence, you can be, a person of color. It's just really it's sort of like we all are different in many ways.
Yeah. Okay, I'm running out of time, but I'm gonna go faster. A Woman is No Man by Ita From. This one I want to say is a Palestinian author, and it talks about two different people. There's Isra that lived in Palestine in the 1990s, and then her relative Dea, who lives in Brooklyn in 2008. This one was really hard for me to read because just the things that actually three generations of women, not just two, but those two went through, especially with their culture, and then moving from Palestine to the US, but still having respect and honor for your culture. But what does that mean for you as a woman?
Mm.
And that it hurt me because my culture is different. So to me, I'm like, why are you allowing the men to treat you like that? But I also can't do that because that's not my culture. I can't judge somebody for what their culture says is right or wrong, but I can certainly feel empathy and as a fellow woman feeling like I really wish or hope that you can see yourself with more worth than what other people in your culture are telling you that you have. And I think Daya especially kind of needed to see that as a woman living in the US and really seeing like do I follow my Arab culture and do I like allow my parents or my dad to dictate whether I'm going to marry someone that I don't even know or like or do I really step away and try to live a life for myself and just knowing again her grandma. I'll obviously I miss my grandma, but but like learning to understand who you are and be proud of that, but also coming to terms with what does that mean for you and your culture? Does that mean that you step away completely? Does that mean you take the things that you like and get rid of the things you don't like? And how do you stand with that if others are telling you that you're wrong?
Mhm.
So this one was an emotionally hard book. I don't know if I felt empowered by it right now. I just like me looking at this right now and kind of holding it again. I'm like feeling really like heart palpitations because it's making me really sad and angry by some of the things that they went through. But um I was still like it says heart-wrenching. That's literally what I'm feeling right now. It's giving me heart-wrenching vibes, but I
Mhm.
really recommend it. Just read something happy afterwards, is what I have to say, right?
Maybe the lunar love. I do want to say I love that some of your books are really about the intergenerational um, I guess, struggles that people have, especially when they come here from other places,
Yeah.
because so many people have this diaspora, experience, and how does an author actually discuss it in for their own traditions and making it very individual to that. So I love this. I love all of the books you've been talking about for that purpose.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mm.
All right. This one is called Squire. This is my first graphic novel that I'm talking about. I want to say it's Middle Eastern as well, or Southeast Asian. I'm really forgetting right now, but it does deal with colonialism. It deals with patriotism in a way that those who have been colonized and they're trying to live their life in this world that really didn't appreciate them right, but wants to use their bodies to fight a war. Do they stay loyal to their culture and the people that they started off as, or do they be loyal to the colonizers who are going to give them a better life? And are they going to get a better life? Because I don't think that's not the case in this. No spoilers, but there's a lot of turmoil in this. It deals with war. This one was a really powerful graphic novel. It's a standalone, so there is no sequel, but it is a very succinct story on its own and gave me a lot of feels. So yeah, this one had a lot of emotion for me as well.
Can I just say, I love graphic novels, and I love that more and more people are reading them and understanding that some people are visual learners. That's one thing, but also that having the text and the word and the pictures really pulls the story together. And
Yes.
sometimes it's harder, like when you're reading a really tough read and you see the pictures of it, it's very
Yeah.
difficult. But on the other hand, it really pulls the whole story together. And I find I'm so glad that there's so many more graphic novels now that tell that, that use that format
Yeah.
to tell their story.
Me too. Yeah, that's is one of the best graphic novels I've read, so I highly recommend it. And seeing the visuals of the war and just the violence without as many words, like I think it brings it together in a way that just the text itself wouldn't have been able to portray for me.
Mhm.
This one, oh my gosh, Together We Burn by Isabel Ibanez. There are some Spanish influences in this. She's a flamenco dancer, but her mother was killed by a dragon doing a flamenco dance for a dragon in this realm, right? But then she has to come to terms with that because she ends up finding out that she needs to work with a dragon to deal with more colonization and more people trying to take over and coming, fighting that trauma that she has of watching her mom die in front of her, now working with the kind of creature that did that. But seeing that the dragons themselves weren't the bad ones. They were doing what they do and protecting themselves from humans that are trying to use them for entertainment or whatnot. So I really liked this one. I've read Isabel Ibanez before, and this one is a standalone, but I love dragons too, so If anybody likes dragons, I know some people are reading Fourth Wing and stuff, but I really, really, really like this one. And I
Hmm.
love the Spanish influence with it as well.
Hmm. Can I also say that I like um this sort of like who is the good guy? Who
Hmm.
what is humane? Who is being humane? Who's, like I don't know, people that know me or don't know me, but like that I really like my monster romance, and the themes are usually that the monsters are really not the bad guys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But as we know in the wars, history is told by the vision of the winner or the conqueror. So who really is the good guy or bad guy? Exactly. And that's something that they have to figure out. And then my last one, You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. This book was literally a love letter to me. I don't know if Leah knows me. I know she doesn't, but she like wrote this to me, to a younger me. And Liz, she is not only Black, but she's queer. Her brother has a disability, a very major health disability that affects her because she doesn't know whether or not her brother will be able to survive, right? In some things. So she's not only learning how to come out of her own shell, but she's also having to learn that she does need to take care of herself and not always put everybody in front of her. And she finds love, right? She learns how to not only be okay with her sexuality and her identity, but also learns how to open up and love. And while this does come from a place of trying to get money for a scholarship, she does like, it ends up being so much more than just a story of trying to get money. Like that's like that may be the plot, but that's not the whole plot of this. And I really like this story just it holds a special place in my heart. Like I remember writing about it on my blog and stuff, and I was just like, this is for me. This book is for me. So, well, look at that. I got through all of them.
You did. And I actually really like how, and I think this happens to a lot of us, is that we pick up a book, we don't know what it's about, or we heard something about it, and then we see ourselves in it in some way. It doesn't have to be the same thing that I might not see the same thing that you see, whatever, but that somehow we connect with the story and the characters or something. And all of a sudden, it's like one of the best books we've ever read, no matter what anybody else says.
Yeah. That's what that was for me. And that's why I'm like, yeah, this is mine. Like this is me. This is for me. Thank you, Leah Johnson. And yes, To Shape a Dragon's Breath, I've been really wanting to read that, Lily. So thank you for bringing that up. I hope to read it soon.
She actually also mentioned another book called
Metal
from
Heaven.
Heaven.
Yeah,
Metal.
I haven't read that one either, but I hope to read it. And thank you so much for your recommendations. I'm excited to add those to my TBR.
Oh my gosh, my TBR pile is gonna fall over.
Yeah.
Jane, I'm gonna send out a list of all of the recommendations Leland made tonight in a recap email. So don't worry about anything that you've missed. You will get a list in probably just an hour or so, and the recording link. So if you want to watch us again, you can.
Yes.
Um, So have you, how do you pick? We have a couple more minutes. So I just want to know, how do you pick your books? You're a book reviewer. So do you get them sent to you? Do you request them? How do you do this?
So I've been very honored in that I have been on different publishers' ARC lists and they will send me some things that I request. And sometimes they'll send me things I don't even know they're coming. So I'm really honored for that. But also I'm such a mood reader that like I just like if I see something and I'm like I feel the pull to read it, I have to move it up my list. So there is no right or wrong answer. It's just what is feeling pulled to me right now. And then also trying to catch up with like book clubs that I'm in, like the one I'm in right now. I did read one of them. I didn't read the other one, but I try to keep up with the book clubs that I'm in and read those in
Mhm.
between the ones that I want to read.
Mhm. And how do you stay away from? So I'm reading Fourth Wing right now because
Okay.
there's just so much hype about it. And I just feel like I can't get away from it. So I have to fall in and read it. So how do you get away from that? I mean, I don't mind reading it. I'm glad to. It's actually very good. But and find these books that are not at the top of the New York Times bestseller list.
What's helped me really is following other bookstagrammers and book bloggers and seeing who they talk about that I don't normally see on like popular lists, right? So let's say, for example, Leah Johnson. I'll look on Goodreads and be like, what's similar to what she's written before? And then I really listen to a lot of the followers, or not the followers, but the other bookstagrammers that I have that I like have personal connections with. I'm like, oh shoot, do you recommend this? Okay, I'm gonna read this. So it's a lot of community in that way of trying to make sure that I diversify my reading as well. It's very intentional. And then also following certain book clubs that are focused on diverse reading. So like there's the Indigenous Reading Circle on Instagram, and that's helping me not only read Indigenous horror, which I'm scared of horror, but I said I was going to do it because it's more Indigenous and it's widening my genre as well. But just following different book clubs like that online and trying it out and seeing how I feel about it. And a lot of times they're really aligned with what I like anyway, so it's just a matter of they just haven't gotten to me yet as far as finding these books, but I know they're all out there. I hope that answered your question,
Oh,
but
I did.
yeah.
I'm impressed because I can't read horror. I'm just such a weenie. But I do know that there's aspects of it that I really, really like. But I won't go into it because I'm such a weenie. Anyways, thank you so much. I will see you again next month, and I hope to see everybody else here. And I will send out that list. This has been wonderful, Leland. Like I said, you've made a dream come true for me.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Have a good night. Happy reading.